Welcome back, guys. It's Will and John back. The MMA Huddle's here for another fight card. We're here for Anthony Smith against Aleksandar Rakic as our main event of this week's fight card. And coming off last week where it was a bit of a shit show of a card. There was things happening all week for the UFC and they were throwing fights together on weigh-in days and you name it. There was stuff happening kind of everywhere. This card actually I think is really solid for a fight night card with a good main event over 3 rounds, and you've got good fights actually throughout the card. So I'm thoroughly looking forward to kind of sitting back and watching this card. There's guys I'm interested in seeing, and there's veterans that we're kind of seeing at the tail end of their career that are they going to bounce back into win columns and stuff like that. So before we get into it, please hit that subscribe button up in the top right hand corner. Hit the bell, you'll be notified when the videos hit the YouTube pretty much, and as soon as it hits on there, give it a thumbs up, and as much as you can, just please hit that thumbs up and just leave comments, just interact, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Me and John were talking a little bit about last week's card, where just how much kind of crap was kind of going down and the main event and everything, which at the time I thought, oh, that's a close fight. I didn't know who that was kind of going to. I actually thought it was kind of, I was leaning Pedro, but I thought it was close enough where I wasn't moaning about Frankie winning the fight. Then I went back and watched it on Sunday. I'm like, and I had a bet on Pedro Munoz to win round 4 or 5 in decision, and I felt a little bit annoyed that I kind of lost out in that one. So, but yeah, John, did you enjoy some of the fights from the weekend? It was a bit of a weird card, to be fair. 9 fights is just a little bit weird, but how did you enjoy some of the little bits that were kind of golden nuggets from the card? Some nice finishes.
Yeah, there was a couple of nice finishes, like you say there, but I didn't watch it live because I had zero interest in that card. It just the excitement is gone. You know, when there's no build up because you don't know what's going to happen, you're worried that every fight's going to get pulled. I felt awful for Pedro Munoz. You know, he had a high percentage as well. I think 47% success rate for striking, compared to Frankie's 30 something percent. Landed 30 more strikes, threw 30 less than Frankie, so had a higher accuracy, and came off the lesser. I felt bad for him because I thought it would have been a solid little win for Pedro. We were talking about Frankie next matchup. It's a tough one to him to give. I'd say maybe Cody would be a fun one to do or something like that. Obviously, the silly people will talk about Jose Aldo, but I think Aldo would absolutely murder Frankie again. I don't think it'll be a good fight for Frankie Aldo. But yeah, overall, it's an okay card. It was just guys that got signed up to the UFC that shouldn't be in the UFC. Agapova needs to retire. I need. Oh gosh, that girl needs to retire, give up the sport, hang her head in shame, and just get a new identity. Because losing that fight is an embarrassment. Honestly, Shane Dobson's going to get murked by everyone else. I don't know how you lose that. It's absolute embarrassment. I'd hang my head in shame. Honestly, I'm gobsmacked how poor she performed.
Yeah, I kind of knew halfway through that first round. I thought, well, she's in trouble here. I thought it's the way she was just trying to throw everything into it, and then when she tried, I think she tried to throw a cartwheel in there to get into like a top position, and she kind of got kicked off. And I was like, this could start to get really close. And then the time at the second round, I was cheering for Shayna because I thought, that's the sport though. It can kind of show up at the best of times, and massive favourites can come through. And I think she was actually the biggest bet and favourite to ever cash in the UFC.
Yes.
So that's kind of crazy.
The biggest since Holly Holm.
Yeah, that's like I say, numbers like that don't usually kind of hit. So it was actually quite fun to see. I had no action on the fights except for watching it. So I was kind of rooting for Shayna towards the end of that first round, and then the second round. So, but Agapova's young. I'm sure she'll learn from it, and she has to learn from that because that's a bad kind of spot to be putting yourself calling that girl out, who probably was the easiest fight in the division, and then you get blasted out there in the 7 minute mark of the fight. So a tough run for her there. But like I say, we're going to get into this card here. Just looking on Wikipedia, we've seen that Ricardo Lamas against Bill Algeo. That's going to be in the main card, I would reckon, because Lamas is a name guy. So if I remember, I'm probably going to put it after or around the Ankalaev fight. We'll jump back to that. So, but we're going to start in the welterweight division, and this is the guy I'm really looking forward to seeing. So they're starting off the night right, in my opinion. You've got Sean Brady here against Christian Aguilera. I've loved what I've seen from Sean Brady so far. what do you see from him in this fight here? Do you think he kind of rolls in this one and we kind of see a little bit more of his game, or does he maybe get through Aguilera quite quick?
One thing about Sean Brady is, like you say, Will, he's well-rounded. I get excited about seeing him because he's so well-rounded in all facets. He can mix up his combinations well, goes to the body, good kicks as well as punches. He mixes up his takedowns perfectly. He's got good top control. When he gets on top of you, he's got a nice ground and pound. He's just such a well-rounded, solid fighter, but he's not an average all-rounder. He's upper level, so he's got a better skill set than just your average all-round fighter. I really like watching him as well. Well, I think his corner's great to him. I think he takes the information on board between rounds. He comes out and he applies what the coaches tell him as well between rounds, which is a great thing to see with some fighters. Sometimes they get in there, they do it for the first 30 seconds, then they get hit in the face and it all goes out the window, and then they just go off one. Christian, though, to be fair, Anthony Ivy won, got a solid win there. Kudos to him for getting that win with the hooks early on. So it would brush off the cobwebs of the fear, so to speak, of the UFC debut. But the guy kind of came in on a couple of fight win streaks, and he's lost a couple of fights outside prior to that at the LFA, where the good thing about LFA is it's a great testing ground for you. You don't get your canned fighters, etc. on LFA getting into the UFC. LFA is probably one of the best ones to get around to get your experience built up. He had wins and losses on there, which is great for his record, but I just feel like in this matchup, it's there for Sean Brady to really put his stamp on as not just one of the lower rank welterweights, that he is ready for that step up. This is the kind of fight that Sean Brady has an opportunity to prove to everyone that he is a level above. I think Christian Aguilar has got not a bad stand-up game. He's obviously got some pop in his hands, but I just feel that he's not got the best skill set to take on Sean Brady. I think Sean Brady here could get the takedowns, get on top of him, and could really dominate from the top of ground and pound and just hard grappling, and really kind of, get him against the cage, get him down, and just kind of hook the leg maybe from the back and just really pick him apart. I can see Sean Brady getting finished maybe in the later rounds. I just feel like he's a better all-round fighter in this one, and he's got a really solid fight IQ. I'm not writing Aguilera off. I just feel that I think Brady's got the skill set here to go and take this win here, definitely. I think it's a great little marker for him.
Like I say, I already mentioned before you started talking about the fight, I really like what I see from him. For me, he's one of these young fighters that the more time he kind of spends in the UFC, you're going to see bigger jumps, I think, from fight to fight. And I think we've seen that in these two fights. Not the easiest fights to kind of come into the UFC with Court McGee, who's got a vast amount of experience and did really well in that fight. And then you've got Nardiev, who's got a good striking game, but then he game planned very well around that and he timed his takedowns well, and once he got the fight there, he was just kind of dominant on the ground, and his striking wasn't all that bad either. So, like I say, I like what I've seen. Kind of seen a little bit of his all-around game in these two fights, but to me, this fight here, I think he's just a little bit too well-rounded for Aguilera. I think that Aguilera's come into the UFC, blasted through Anthony Ivy in a minute, who was wide open for a shot there. Sean Brady's a lot more defensively savvy than what Ivy is, and he's just too smart a fighter in my opinion. I think that he takes this fight to the ground. I think he could submit him. I think he could pound him out a little bit in the kind of mid part of this fight. So for me, I like Sean Brady. I actually like Sean Brady inside the distance. I don't know what that is betting wise here in the UK. I know in America it was plus 200 it opened, which I was like, that's high. I was like, I don't know what we'll get in the UK. I doubt we'll very much get that. We might get a minus 150, a plus 150 out of it, sorry, but yeah, I like Sean Brady a lot. I think he gets Aguilera out of there, and I've got him inside a couple of rounds doing that. Polyana Viana against Emily Whitmire. Coin flip fight. It really is. It's one of these fights that low levels women's MMA. Both girls are coming off losses. I think multiple losses actually. So you've got someone like Viana who's got subbed very, very quickly against Macedo. Lost a split to Cifers. She's not really great in any one area, and it's probably the same with both girls here, where there's not a defining skill set between them that's going to kind of put one above the other. So to me, that's why I'm calling it a coin flip fight, in my opinion. So it's whatever you kind of have your lean on, in your opinion. So, I mean, you've got Whitmire, who's 4-3, pretty much close to a 500 record. She's fought Rebus. That's a tough out, considering what we've seen from Amanda Hebas and Gillian Robertson as well. So she's probably fought the better caliber opposition. Viana, to me, she's kind of one of these. I don't want to say she's a fake black belt, but when you get, I was so surprised when Macedo kind of really caught her like that, and it was a beautiful armbar. I'm not going to take that away from her, but I heard, and I've heard some interviews saying that some people say she was like a high level black belt, and I'm just like, I haven't really seen that in the UFC, if I'm being honest, outside her first fight. So, and saying that, she's got a win over Amanda Hebas as well, which is quite funny just looking at her record now. So, and she knocked her out dead. It was actually a brutal KO way back in 2015. How kind of times have changed there. I'm going to pick Viana. Not super confident on either side, but I think just maybe a little bit better than what Whitmire is, but it's a coin flip fight. I've got no real interest in the fight. I'll sit back and watch, but I think it's going to be really close in this one here.
Yeah, it's not great viewing on the eye. I'm going to go the other way of Emily, because I was not overly confident on either girls, but I think we'll do a 50-50 split here. I think just because I think, Emily got the win over Albu, which Albu's a bit of a tank of a girl, so there's a lot of strength. And I thought technique-wise, she was very suave in that kind of win there. And I think as long as Viana can get the fight to the ground and it can on top, she might be able to apply this apparent jiu-jitsu, but she doesn't really get their fights to the ground. I just think she lacks in that ability of the takedowns. I don't know whether her wrestling is not that strong or she's just not confident enough in the engagement. But I think on the feet, I think Emily might be able to just land a bit more. I think she might be able to have a bit more of a better output, maybe land a few more shots and get away. I'm not overly confident, but I just think she can maybe land a little bit more on Polyana, because I just don't think her striking is overly great. I think, man, I'll go Whitmire, but mate, I'm not overly confident on either one of them. It's just, I've got to pick someone. I've got to pick Emily then. Bless me.
Moving on
COVID.
To men's featherweight division. We've got Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres against Giga, Chikadze. This is one I'm looking forward to. Who have you got?
We brought this down the week, didn't we? Because it's got moved from one of the other cards. And I'm going to forget which one it was now, but it got moved. I'm probably not going to change my mind. I'll probably go with Giga. I think I picked Giga last time. I hope I did. I'm going Giga this time. Nothing's going to change. Alex Caceres, if he bothered himself to apply himself and use his wrestling and grappling bit, he could probably beat Giga. But I just don't have any confidence in him. Alex Caceres is just such a hit and miss guy. He's, the 500 fight. He's the guy who sits in the featherweight division, fights here and there. Anyone steps in short notice, random kind of guy, but he's never fighting for a title. I don't know what. I think the UFC just keep there just for like a little gatekeeper marker for folks to come in and fight, and some people lose, some people win against him. I'll go Giga because I think Giga's obviously he's definitely a high level on the striking. Fight start on the feet. I think Alex will have a bit difficult time getting to the ground, so I'll go with Giga decision. But it's just Caceres, man. I don't know what he's going to do. I wish he would just use a bit of wrestling, get the fight to the ground, use the jiu-jitsu that he has got. When Alex Caceres gets your back, he's got a great little body triangle. You can really hold on to you for a while. He can get on top, but I just don't know if he'll do it.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I'm not sure whether we did break this one down before. I think we were close and then it got moved, but I could be wrong. Everything kind of seems to roll into one at the minute.
Yeah.
It's just like, hard to remember what you're doing and what you're not doing. But I'm going to pick Alex Caceres. I'm going to try and see if I can come through again, and him as a big dog. Like the last time, he was a 2-1 underdog against Chase Hooper, and it was the easiest money I think I've definitely made this year in a long time. So he completely rinsed that kid badly, and how he was as massive an underdog as that, I've no idea. And he's a guy that, I mean, the experience the guy's got, I don't even want to ring out how many fights he's got in the UFC, but he's got
20 nearly.
Yeah, he's got 16-13 record. So he's close to being a 500 fighter, but let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, he's got 22 to 23 fights in the UFC. So most of his fights on his record are actually close to being in the UFC. So at least 75% of them. So yeah, he's a savvy veteran. I mean, MMA wise, he's got a lot more to kind of offer probably through that than Chikadze. But when you look at Caceres' kind of number, he's not a takedown guy. I think that's what you kind of need against Giga, because if you're having a stand up fight with Giga, you could be in a lot of trouble. And I'm still a little bit curious about Giga's gas tank a little bit, especially the guy who can manage it, maybe against like an Alex Caceres, because I mean he was going after Alvin Rivera really hard. He was hitting him with some big shots in that fight. And then as it kind of went into the late second, especially in the third, he definitely started to slow down a little bit and gave Rivera chances. Now, someone like Caceres, who can probably manage rounds a little bit better than someone like a Rivera or maybe like an Emmers, and Emmers sometimes makes kind of bad decisions. Not saying that Alex Caceres can't, because I don't think he's the smartest fighter out there, but I think initially he might start a little bit slower and Giga could get off to a quick start. I think rounds 2 and 3 is maybe when Bruce Leroy can come into it. If he can try and get some grappling game, even if it's against the cage, to try and work it down. I think if he gets Giga to the ground, he can maybe keep him there for larger parts of the round and kind of win the rounds through that. Not saying that. I mean, Brandon Davis got him down a couple of times, and you would have thought maybe Brandon might have even got him out of there, and he kind of survived and got the W in that one. So I'm going to pick Alex Caceres. And like I say, I'm someone that always looks at Caceres' numbers because, like betting numbers, because when he usually comes through, he comes through as a pretty sizable dog in some spots, and he did against Chase Hooper, and he's kind of round about that same number in this fight. And I think he can just manage wee parts of this round, parts of this fight that can win him rounds, and he can win a close decision. So that's kind of where I'm leaning in that one. Then I'm going to go Bruce Leroy, I think, to win his first 3 fights, like have a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. So I'm going to take him in that one there. Middleweight division, we've got Alessio Di Chirico against Zach Cummings. Oof, this to me is a very, very close fight. You've got the experience of Zach Cummings, who's got a lot more experience than what Di Chirico has. But to be fair to Di Chirico, he's had a fair few fights in the UFC himself now. But you've got, like I say, I'm finding that when we were talking about like a coin flip fight earlier on, I'm kind of finding this the same way here. Where I think this one could go to decision. But you've got to maybe think that the age of Zach Cummings is maybe starting to maybe come into it a little bit. He's like 36 now, so he's kind of, I don't want to say he's old because he's only a year older than me, and I don't feel really fight year wise. I mean, he's been around a long time, coming off that loss to Amari Akhmadov, where I actually don't think that was the worst loss in the world. I don't think it was the worst performance.
No. It was a good, fun fight.
Yeah, fun fight. He just didn't get enough off.
No.
And Akhmadov just kind of really bossed certain parts of that fight. But before that, a couple of really good wins, a good finish over Trevin Giles.
Yeah.
He's just a hard-nosed guy. And in fights like these, it's like I said earlier on with Viana and Whitmire, there's no real defining thing in either of these guys' arsenals. Like, he can take this fight to the ground or he can boss the feet. So it's another very, very close fight, which it's hard to really get a good lean on. And Di Chirico's coming off a couple of kind of close-ish losses. When I watched them back, I was like, no, there were definitely losses on his side, and he was moaning that Kevin Holland maybe got away with one there, but he outstruck him pretty convincingly, and I think because he thought the takedowns kind of meant more in that fight. I'm going to edge Zach Cummings, but it's like I say, I'm not got much confidence. I'm going to go Cummings via split decision, but it's, like I say, a close fight.
Yeah, this is another one that I found hard as well, bro. I just kind of think to myself, Alessio will have the size advantage over Zach Cummings, and Alessio throws heavy with his combinations, but he's kind of predictable with his combinations. He seemed, when you watch his fights, he just kind of threw the same combinations in several of his fights, and you thought, I get it, that's a combination you're comfortable with, but he just went to it too many times, and with it, he just kept getting predictable. he just kept getting more and more predictable with his kind of 1-2s and overhand rights and that. And with Zach Cummings, Zach can probably start to hopefully read that. I'm sure what will have happened with Zach is James Krause would have saw that with tape study, and they will have drilled maybe stepping away on an angle or parrying or counter-striking, that combination in particular. There's a couple of combinations that Alessio throws a bit too often, and I feel like he doesn't set up enough of his strikes with the jabs, and it's something that Zach Cummings might be able to hopefully take advantage of, because Zach should have a little bit of a speed thing where, obviously being in the welterweight division previously for so long, like we said, well, he's been lots of experience, and he fought absolute savages down at welterweight as well. He's tough-nosed, so's Alessio. The pair of them can take a hit. I think Zach fares better over 3 rounds. He definitely manages himself a lot better than Alessio. I feel Alessio definitely comes second round. You start to see him slow down. You start to see his punches slow down, because he just throws so much every time in his combinations. He doesn't really set up punches, so he won't throw like a 50% punch, and then when he feels he's getting that time and range, he starts to then pick when he's going to throw the heavy shots. He just throws heavy, and I think Zach should try to take advantage of that. Prepare to have a heavy first round where it's going to be pretty full on from Alessio, and then it'll start to taper off, and that's kind of like Trevin Giles was taking advantage. Trevin Giles was having the better of the fight at the earlier parts, and then Zach came into it. You might see something again here, and I kind of feel that maybe from the second, third round, Zach can just use, like you say, Will, experience, knowledge, and just get that kind of mature, experienced fighters win, and just win out those 2 rounds, because Alessio is there. He is the kind of guy you can outpoint and outsmart in those fight moments. So I'm going to go with Zach Cummings. I think he can get a decision win as well, but like 2-1 or something.
Yeah, it's a very, very close fight.
Yeah, super close.
Cummings is a guy I've always kind of really liked watching. I don't know why, but
yeah, nice guy as well. Super nice dude.
Super nice guy. Yeah. Women's strawweight division, we have Mallory Martin against Hannah Cifers. How do you see this one going?
Another one where I wasn't overly impressed when I watched the tape study again on the girls. I feel like Hannah Cifers, obviously she fought Mackenzie Dern, wasn't it? I think it was, and so kudos to her. She didn't do well, which we thought that she might have had a better opportunity. I think that was Mackenzie's first fight back as well since she had the kid as well. So I think when we originally looked at it, we thought that's probably the best opportunity you can get if you're Hannah Cifers to beat someone like a Mackenzie Dern, but she didn't overly perform in that fight. I feel like she's, I don't want to say predictable. How would I say? I feel like she needs to add a bit more to a fight game, in my opinion. I would like to see her add a bit more to a game where she's a bit more or less predictable, but she's beatable. Like Angela Hill, when she got on top of her and was just raining down on her, and then Mackenzie Dern obviously got the win. Now, that was just really good jiu-jitsu from Mackenzie's Dern part, getting the knee bar, going up with the X guard, etc. And that's jiu-jitsu, that's something you drill all the time and you get. But then again, it showed a kind of inexperience from Cifers, where she should have really seen that, and you should not have been that close next to Mackenzie Dern on your feet. She's going to take your leg. She'll go for the heel hook, knee bar, etc. But then you got Agapova just got the submission on her again. So there's almost like there's a way to beat her, and Mallory Martin can get the fight to the ground. And if I'm Mallory Martin, that's where I'm going. I'm taking the fight to the ground. I'm going to kind of try and drown it. Obviously, she lost to I'm going to say her name wrong here. Is it Jan Rober?
Jan
Rober, yeah, sorry. Close enough there. I never say the names right, guys, so just take on the chin. But as a whole, though, on a performance-wise, she isn't too bad, Mallory Martin. She can probably do okay on the feet with Cifers, but I think Mallory can get this fight to the ground and just take it there. And I think that's where she'll win the fight. I think she'll get the fight to the ground, and that's where she'll get it. There's probably like maybe a decision win, but there's a route to beat Cifers, and you've just got to take it. You've got to take advantage of it. So I'm going Mallory Martin here for like a decision win, or even like a submission if she can get like a submission offer on like the second, third round.
It's just hard to be confident in Cifers because she's taking fight after fight, and she's not improving in between those fights. No. So she's not improving anything that was deficient beforehand. So, that Angela Hill fight, she was competitive. She was getting kind of pieced up in parts. But once she got the fight to the ground, Angela Hill, she kind of got to full mount once and started wailing her with elbows and cut her up a little bit. And then Mackenzie Dern fight, I mean, she actually started that fight okay on the feet, but then she made the biggest kind of cardinal mistake against someone like Mackenzie Dern. She jumped into her guard.
Yeah.
You're just asking for it. You're done from there. As soon as you make that mistake to go in there. And then Agapova, I mean, everybody's kind of talking down on Agapova, but she has got some things there that if you get hit with some of those things and you don't get put out, then you can be in trouble, and that's kind of what happened there. And she has a big girl for that division. She's too small. She's too undersized. Even Mallory Martin, I was looking at her stats. She's 5'4".
Yeah.
I'm probably guessing she hasn't faced many girls that have been overly smaller than her. But like I said, the one thing that I look at in this fight here is that she fought in May. She fought 2 weeks later in June. She's fighting 2 months later. She's not going to be making big jumps in her deficiencies that are in her game in that amount of time. And her she works on her farm full time as well. So it's, to me, she's just not making the improvements of that. And when you look at Mallory Martin, she lost to Verna, but Verna, you've seen that she is a very
legit,
well trained fighter on the ground. You can see it, the way the moves that she makes to get into different positions. She's a legit person on the ground, like you said. So that loss isn't too bad. She just kind of really got taken down. She kind of got taken out in that one there. But try and never write Cifers off, because if this kind of stays standing, she has a lot of power, but there is serious deficiencies in her game that you have to kind of really side with Mallory and Martin, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick Martin to win a pretty comprehensive decision, but Cifers will be in it till the bitter end, swinging away and try to get her down there. So moving on, Maki Pitolo against Impa Kasanganay. Maki's jumping back in, 2-3 weeks after making a bad mistake against Darren Stewart, and it's hard to really put your trust in Maki when he makes mistakes like that. You've seen the fight with Callum Potter, and then you've seen that there. He makes mistakes, and if you're a good fighter who can make good decisions at that point, you can really hurt someone like Maki Pitolo. But if you don't, you can be another side where Pitolo can be throwing bombs at you and could be in a little bit of trouble. And Impa, to me, is a guy that I think I've got a lot of promise in him. I think that he's got a lot of stuff there that I really, really like. He's coming back pretty short notice after fighting in the Contender Series.
3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, so then week 3, so week 1. So 3 weeks ago himself there, and he went full 15 minutes. I thought he looked very composed, looked very good. I think he's a very smart fighter. I think he uses a lot of really good tendencies in his fight, and he kind of doesn't really rush anything. He kind of really keeps that game plan. It's just smart. He looks a very smart, composed fighter to me. And Pitolo, he's just so up and down that you can't really trust him, but he has some defining power there that if he can get you in the right positions, he can hurt you. But I think Impa's going to be smart here, maybe try and... is this fight back down at welterweight as well, actually?
Yeah.
Oh, and I only just noticed that.
Yeah.
Maki went up to 185, didn't he? And that's where I think he was probably at his strongest, going back down to welterweight and making that weight cut. Oh, that's rough, actually, thinking about that now. So yeah, I like Impa. I just think he's going to game plan for this one, right? Even though it's 3 weeks, it's hard to really foolify a kind of good game plan in that point. But I think the spots where he can maybe tie someone like Pitolo up against the cage, fight long, avoid the bombs, and just win a decision. So I've got Impa to kind of win that fight there.
Yeah, like I said before with Cifers, how she's not getting a break to develop her holes in the game. Pitolo's doing the same thing again, where these people are just turning over the losses to try and get a win back, and it's almost like it's okay to accept a loss in MMA. Just go back to the drawing board, learn from your mistakes, and come back. So instead, he's went, lost the fight. I want another fight. I'll cut weight down to welterweight, and he's got 3 weeks now. So where normally you got to think Pitolo would have had like a 6-week camp. You start your weight cut from that 6-week camp. You strategically put it down. He'll make welterweight. Don't get me wrong. In 3 weeks, it just means your little mini camp is focused more on the weight than anything else. So they'll be trying to tick him over with his conditioning and just get the weight down. Impa though, like you say, he was on Dana White Contender Series. very, very green still, but he's got a potential about him. That's why the UFC signed him up, because they thought he's not been in the sport long. There's a lot of promise in him, and I think they're trying to build him up right here. I think Pitolo's a nice fight to bring him up with, because I think Pitolo's grappling aspects, I think he can get taken down. Impa's got nice ground control. I think he's quite heavy on top, and I think he'll be able to use that to his advantage to kind of tire Maki out here. Tire his arms a little bit with the grappling aspect. Take away a bit of that pop in his hands, and also then it will deter Pitolo to unload with the shots, because then Impa's going to probably go and try and go for the takedowns. It will put it in Pitolo's head to maybe just be careful, just reduce the amount of combinations he throws, so you might only throw the 1 or 2 punches. I'm going to go with Impa because, like you say, Will, game plan wise, he's very good at sticking to it. He's very patient. I think he can just get on top of Pitolo and just really kind of grind out a decision win here. And that's all he needs to do. If I'm Impa, I just want to get those minutes under your belt, get that time in the ring under you, get that experience built up, because he's super green. Get him the win here, then let him have a break. Give him like 3 or 4 months away. Get Impa on maybe like a December card, but let him go and train and grow a bit now, because he's had that fight, like you say, Will, a few weeks back. Just having his debut now, then let him grow, let him develop. So I'm going to go with him per decision.
Yeah, I think this is a mistake on Wikipedia. Just looking at it now, because I went to UFC.com and it's middleweight, and I'm thinking to myself, Impa's never fought at welterweight, so it must be at middleweight. Which obviously helps Pitolo a little bit more, but there's no way to change my pick on that. No. Just interesting when I seen it, I was like, welterweight, I was like, he's going back down. But it never really occurred to me that Impa is actually a natural kind of middleweight. So, yeah, I'm taking a guess that's a middleweight fight, but I'm not changing my pick based on that. When I was having a look while you were speaking there. So, we might as well add the Ricardo Lamas kind of fight for this now. We're kind of probably into the main card here. So, we've got Ricardo Lamas against Bill Algeo. Who have you got in that one there?
Believe it or not, I'm going to go with Ricardo Lamas. Bit of a surprise, folks. I thought Bill Algeo, he fought Brendan Loughnane in the Dana White Contender Series and thoroughly got outclassed by Brendan Loughnane, in my opinion. I thought Brendan just absolutely schooled him, picked him apart, did what he wanted. Just showed he's a class above, really, Brendan, as we know. And obviously he didn't get signed to the UFC because Dana was wanting him to do something else rather than get the contract. But I think it was just more, Dana was just never going to give it the contract to him unless he did a spectacular finish. But Bill showed that he has 4 guys who are in the UFC now on the regional scene, and he didn't win then. I feel like Bill is one of those guys who would always be short of a UFC contract. If this short fight notice hadn't happened, he would have fought like on your CFFCs or your LFAs or your Titans, and he would have been like the kind of and main event guy, but always falling short against the guys who make it to the UFC to do something with their career. He had a fight, his last fight there against Doolin. He was super cocksure in himself because he'd beat Doolin previously. So Doolin was trying to get the revenge fight and get the win back. Doolin looked really poor, in my opinion. I thought he looked super low level for what he's going to be facing. He was poor striking, poor timing, not fast. And Bill just got super cocky in the fight, doing all this little dancing and prancing around, throwing his punches. But I was sitting there thinking, yeah, because you're fighting a guy you've already beat and you already had his number in that fight again. You could see his opponent, Doolin, just knew it as well. You could see after the first round, he just kind of like, I'm not going to win here, and was just, fighting out of instinct. He's going to fight a guy in Ricardo Lamas who's going to be aggressive. He's going to throw hell at him. And if he gets you on the ground as well, he'll smash you into pieces. I'm just unsure about what advantage Bill will have here. Maybe being new and maybe being able to have a bit of confidence, but he hasn't got massive KO power in him. That's one of the things he lacks a little bit of. Will he outlast Ricardo Lamas for 3 rounds? I don't think so either. I think Ricardo Lamas got good conditioning. So I've got to go Ricardo here all day long. Even though Ricardo he's on a slight decline in his career. He's obviously past that ultimate featherweight kind of peak for himself. He's still one of the tough guys around there, like a Jeremy Stevens. They can still cut the cloth in the weight class. They're just not going to get in that title picture anymore.
Yeah, I'm going Ricardo Lamas. You're not going to see me pick Bill Algeo. There's been a lot of things with this whole COVID thing that's been going on, but one of the actual benefits is actually guys like Algeo getting his shot in the UFC, because I actually, when I looked at his fights against the Brendan Loughnane, I thought, I think doing all right to get an opportunity here. I think the UFC actually were trying to sell Brendan Loughnane, and then kind of Dana kind of shit all over kind of Brendan Loughnane a little bit. But yeah, to me, Lamas, I mean, you look at he's lost 3 of his last 4, but Josh Emmett, who's probably top 5 of the division, Bektic, who's kind of declined a little bit, but had an opportunity, I thought, to win that fight. Beat Darren Elkins, always tough, and then he beat Calvin Keita, he lost to Calvin Keita, and that kind of Calvin can knock you out because he's got some vicious boxing skills. I just don't see where Bill kind of really wins this fight now. He lost to Loughnane pretty comprehensively, and then he came against like the opponent you're talking about there, who's not got the greatest record in the world. So he got back on the horse a little bit and got a win there. But like I say, he would never be getting this opportunity if someone didn't jump out off the card, and Ryan Hall did that last week there. But like I say, Lamas' chin is not great, so he could maybe get caught with a shot. And we've seen these guys that have come in short notice just come out there and go for broke and catch guys with stuff. So something like that might happen, but you'd be hard pressed to find a guy having any real confidence in Bill Algeo in this one. So I'll take Ricardo Lamas. I think he could knock him out. He could submit him. So I've probably got Ricardo Lamas via stoppage, but Ricardo's kind of at the tail end of his career, 38, 39 years old. So it might go to a decision, but I've got Lamas pretty handily in that fight there. Magomed, getting put together all the time. Ankalaev against Yeon Cutelaba. I mean, yeah, we broke this down.
It's the modern day Ferguson Khabib, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like I say. There's no. This was a fight that was supposed to happen 2 weeks ago, and then got pulled halfway through fight week, and then gets rescheduled for this. I think it's Cutelaba caught the COVID, caught the virus, so he got pushed back a little bit. So it's kind of a crazy fight. They've tried to put it back together a couple of times. It's fell off a couple of times. They're determined to put it back on, which I like actually. Because I do think Cutelaba is live in the first round. Outside of that, I think Ankalaev will kind of work him a little bit and could. I still think he could take him out in the first round personally, but yeah, I'm not going to change my pick from a couple of weeks ago. Ankalaev, he's a heavy favourite for a reason. He's already beat Cutelaba, no matter what you say about the stoppage, which was BS. It is what it is. He's got a win over Cutelaba, and Cutelaba is live in every fight because he throws fighting and power from the get-go. He gives his opponents fits in the first couple of minutes, but he will start to fade out, and against someone like Ankalaev, it's just not going to be enough to really beat him there, and I think Ankalaev could get him out of there, which I do think is going to happen. So Ankalaev inside the distance for me there.
Yeah, I'm not changing my mind either from the other week, mate. Ankalaev as well. The first round, he's just got to be smart, cautious, be clever with his range, use his front tips, front kicks, use that width, that kind of long jab that he can use as well. Be smart, let Cutelaba just punch air, because he will come at him with blitzes, just making sure he's expending that energy, on thin air, and that will bring his tank down a lot more. We've seen him after the first round. But Cutelaba's, you can get him down and submit him. So, if Ankalaev is smart enough, he can maybe get the fight to the ground on top. But, yeah, I just don't see much different happening in 2 weeks' time. So, yeah, Ankalaev.
So, moving on, we've got Alexa Grasso against Giga Kim. I think this one could be a good, real technical kind of fight here. Who have you got in that one?
I do think it'll be a good technical fight. I think Alexa Grasso will be the technical winner in the fight. Super impressed. Do you know what it is? If you give Grasso someone who can grapple, she'll lose. But if you give someone who strikes, she'll win. She is good with strikers, and that is what you got here with Kim. Kim is, in my opinion, I think she's a bit too patient. I think she's a little bit too patient with her output. If strikes are a little bit slow, she can land heavy, and she does land well, but I feel like Kim's are going to be a little bit slow for Grasso in this fight. I think Alexa Grasso is going to be able to pop off the shots, land good strikes, and move out the way. I think she's going to be able to circle off, jab off, and I think Kim's just going to be she's going to be second to the punch in this fight. I feel like she won't land that as much as she did against one of the worst fighters I've ever seen in the UFC, Nadia Kasim, who's apparently still in the UFC, which blows my mind. She's absolutely gopping. But yeah, I just feel like Grasso here is just going to put a boxing clinic on Kim. And I think Kim will tough it out, don't get me wrong. I think she'll last the 3 rounds. But I just think Grasso's going to be able to just pick away at this girl. And I think you'll see Kim trying to force that kind of right hand to land on Grasso a few times. She'll land, don't get me wrong. She's not going to miss every time. But I just think Grasso's going to have far more advantage here. I think her footwork's better. Her angles are stronger. Kim will just follow. You see, Kim follows and doesn't cut you off to land that right hand. So that's where I think she'll fall foul here, and I think Grasso should just take the win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good fight in the future, because I don't think Alexa will try and take this to the ground or whatever that. And Kim, to be fair, she's got a long reach here, and she's got a 6-inch reach advantage, so she's going to be the bigger girl in there. But to me, technically wise, when you watch Grasso, to me, has got the far more better hands. I think she's more crisp, she's more clean, she's added some kicks to her resume. I just think it's a good fight for her, and like I say, she's fought better caliber opposition than Alina, who's heading down a little bit. Carla Esparza, I bet on Grasso in that spot, and I always seem to bet against Carla Esparza. I don't know why, but that was a fight going into that 3rd round. She could have absolutely won. If she stopped those takedowns, she was going to win that fight. Couldn't stop the takedowns, and inevitably lost a majority decision in that one there. But you seen what she can be like in the Carolina fight, where her boxing was so crisp and so good and so on point that if she shows up with that against a load of these girls, she's going to beat them very comprehensively and can maybe get them out of there. So for me, like Jeon Kim, she's okay to say the least. I mean, she has come off that win over Nadia Kassem, which is not really anything to write home about. Got pretty beat up against Antonina, where she got kind of out juked on the feet a little bit and got taken down, which was a little bit of surprise there. So maybe Alexa could mix up some takedowns and kind of just switch it up a little bit. But I've got Alexa Grasso. I think she wins quite comfortably over the 15-minute part of this fight. So I've got Alexa Grasso for that one there. Co-main event time. Ruthless Robbie Lawler steps in here for Jeff Neal, who is in a really bad way, which is kind of scary. I watched a couple of interviews with James Lynch and read some things, and geez, that guy, by all accounts, kind of got lucky to come away with his life. So he steps in here on a couple of weeks short notice to fight Neil Magny. I say this every time with Neil Magny. It's he's one of those guys that kind of impresses me just by how much he's kind of did in his UFC career, because I did not expect that to kind of happen. It's me to talk first in this one. I think it is, isn't it? So
it is, bro. Yeah.
So, like I say, you've got the vast experience, championship experience of Robbie Lawler, who to me is kind of, I don't want to say he's decreasing, because you look at the people he's losing to, and I mean, and these are guys that are having belts put around their waist, and are just are hard guys to kind of really fight. Because you can say what you want about Kobe Covington, he is a guy that has got a skill set there that is very, very hard to really look good in, because he stifles you every opportunity. He peppers you with a load of strikes, will jump in the legs, will clinch up against the cage, and you just can't get anything off. And Robbie couldn't get his back off the cage in that fight pretty much in there. And then the Askren fight, I mean, he absolutely was killing that guy. And then he gets bulldog choke. He wasn't out. Herdine fucks that one up. And then Dos Anjos, which Dos Anjos is just I mean, I've got a lot of guys in the UFC that I thoroughly respect. Rafael Dos Anjos is actually one of the biggest guys I respect for. He will literally, no bullshitting at all, will take any fight against any guy, no matter the hard skill sets. You look at his resume, and they've matched him up with another guy. He's moving back down to lightweight.
yeah.
And he's fighting Islam Makhachev. And I mean, when you look at, I mean,
what a fight! Oh,
you look at Dos Anjos and like the murderer's row that guy's had of fighters, and like tough fighters. Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, Kobe Covington, who've got that kind of game plan that Islam Makhachev could really kind of put on there, heavy grapple. But I mean, I think the last time he looked really good, I thought he looked all right in the Kevin Lee fight. I thought he looked amazing in the Robbie Lawler fight. I thought he looked on point in that one.
Yeah.
And Robbie, to be fair, he's definitely at the tail end of his career. I mean, this guy's been around for absolutely ages, but I think he's having a decrease in opponent here from when you look at his recent resume in the UFC. When was the last time he kind of fought someone like this? Because he's been fighting the top of the division since he came back in 2012, outside of maybe Bobby Volker, who was a long, long time ago. He's been fighting at Ellenbergers, who was kind of high-rated highlight at that time. Matt Brown, tough. Johnny Hendricks had the belt. Rory McDonald, we all know, is one of the best welterweights out there. Had an absolute war with him in that one. Condit, Woodley, Cerrone, Dos Anjos, Askren, Covington. This is a step down from anything he's faced in the last, 5 years at least, in my opinion. 5, 6 years probably. So he's got that skill there where he can throw bombs at you and he can intimidate you with his striking, because you know he's got he's going to be in the fight. If you don't take this guy out, then you're in big, big trouble. He can have power throughout the entire fight. But in saying that, with Neil Magny, he's got a skill set or a kind of like a frame that is very, very hard to kind of really make a good game plan for, because he's very long, he's very strategic, he game plans very well, he uses those levers very, very well, can tie you up, put you against the cage, and we've seen that Covington could do that. I'm not putting Covington and Magny in the same realm because they're really not, but he's smart. He's a smart fighter. He doesn't lose many fights. He can win some big fights. I mean, he's fought some good fighters in this division.
Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah.
Hector Lombard.
He went in. Li Jingliang kind of shut him down when all the hype was on him. Rocco Martin really just beat him up a little bit. So he's got that frame, he's got that reach, and he's kind of got that savviness in there that can really make it tough. But I think just the tenaciousness of Robbie Lawler, in my opinion, could really set someone like Magny off and maybe not stick to what he was supposed to do, get hit with a couple of shots. The knockout power is always there. It's always going to be live. If he can keep his back off the cage and keep this centered and get in close and rip Neil Magny a little bit, I think he could hurt him up a little bit here. And when I look at the betting line, he's plus 210.
Oh, it's went up. Oof.
Yeah, so the value, in my opinion, not nice. I'm not saying the value because that's kind of hard to say, because Magny could come out here and win this 30-27 because he's got the kind of, I think he's got some of that really good things that could maybe win him rounds very convincingly and stop Robbie Lawler from throwing his output. But I just feel that Robbie Lawler, for me, I feel is the better pick for me, because the betting line, if you're betting it, you have to go on that side, because mine is 245 on the Magny side. I don't see much value in that personally, because I think that Robbie can make this a dog fight. And then if it is a dog fight, there's only one guy I'm picking in that kind of aspect of a fight. So, and like I say, I think this is a step down in a caliber opposition, not taken away from Neil Magny, because I do think he's a lower end top 15 guy. But I'm going to pick Robbie Lawler in this one. I'm going to pick him via knockout. I think he gets a big win here. It might be the last time we ever see something like that from Robbie, but I'm going to pick him via knockout in this one.
I am going to go the other way. I'm going to go Neil Magny. I went back and I thought, you know what, I'm going to look at matchups, the opponents that are similar in kind of style to Robbie Lawler. There's no point, like you say, Will, doing tape study of, grapplers. There's no point in watching guys who are going to do takedowns. Obviously, Colby threw a different type of game plan against Robbie and just outstruck him. And I think that's, taking that part of it, if I'm Neil Magny, that's something you got to put in your head. You think, if I can just throw a high volume, and that's something Neil Magny can do, like you say, he's got great conditioning. He's always good. He's always in good conditioning. He's always got 3 solid rounds in him. He's fought top-level guys, like your Damian Myers, your Rafael dos Anjos, your Hector Lombards at the time. And that was when Hector Lombard was an absolute scary man for that first 5 minutes. Hector Lombard was a monster. And he nearly got put out by Hector Lombard, and he survived it really well. And then just took Hector Lombard apart, just started to pick away at him and ended him. And that was a superb little win and performance. Showed great composure. He's come back, like we said, after that kind of gap he had because of the silly little suspension, whatever. He's looked good in his return. He could cause Robbie problems with the jab, and the distance and the range. That 80-inch reach is a horrible thing, and Robbie fights close. And if Neil Magny can just use that footwork in there and just pick away at him. He could get the win. And obviously, you learn from fights with that. With Kelvin Gastelum is a good example as well. I think Kelvin's not a Robbie Lawler, but he fights with his strike and he needs getting close to you because he's quite compact, Kelvin. And I thought Neil Magny fought that fight really well too. Robbie, for me, he just like say, well, I don't know if it's a confidence thing that he's lacking, where he's just not releasing that trigger. Or like he did it against Donald Cerrone because he knew what he was getting with Donald. He tried to catch Donald Cerrone out in the first round and went absolutely hell for leather in the first 2 minutes and then did his gas tank nearly. And you could see him slow down after that round. He just started to pick his shots a lot more, did a bit patient combinations. And Donald Cerrone looked actually really good from the second and third round onwards. And that was a fun fight. And to be honest with you, I thought Cerrone could have had his lights put out, but it seemed that pop in Lawler just wasn't there after that burst. 3-round fight. Neil Magny's going to have gas for days in a 3-round bout. I just think that he can really get under Lawler's skin with that jab and really just pick off with a simple 1-2 combination. And it would just, Lawler's going to keep coming forward. I just see Magny just moving, circling away, just circle away from that power left and just circle round and just pop away those strikes. So I'm going to go with Neil Magny on this one. I think he could possibly just do it. I think he looked good against, like you say, Will, against Ricky Martin. But yeah, I'm going to go with Neil Magny, mate.
Okay, so we're on to our main event of the night. We've got Anthony Smith stepping back in there, and maybe a lot shorter notice than I thought he was going to definitely step back in the cage against the very, very, very much solid Aleksandar Rakic, who's, even though he's coming off a loss, I don't think he's stopped plummeted all that low, to be honest with you. I still think there's a lot to see from this guy. I do like what I see from him. Who have you got in our main event of the night?
I have to say, I think we'll see a better performance from both fighters right now because that belt getting dropped by John Jones, I think everyone in that top 10 in the light heavyweight division suddenly went, ooh, I've got a chance now. I legit think everyone thinks they've got a good chance of getting that belt. With John Jones out of the picture, I don't care what Anthony Smith says. I don't care what Rakic says. I don't care what Reyes says. I don't care what any of them say. John Jones in the picture, you're probably not going to beat him because he's still in that prime for light heavyweight. He could come back next year and get that belt back. I 100% believe he could go through everyone if he wanted to. But now that belt's up for grabs, I think we might see a little bit more hunger in these guys, thinking if I put a solid performance in here, if either one of these guys put on that kind of highlight reel performance, they could throw their names for the challenge, to face obviously the winner of Reyes and Blachowicz, which I'm actually looking forward to the tape study on that one, Will. That's going to be a good one to break down too. That's going to be super interesting. But looking at this one, Anthony Smith, man, like, dang, Glover Teixeira was what? He's about 500 years old, looked superb, boxed the absolute crap out of Anthony Smith, just lit him up. And Anthony Smith was just surviving at some parts, tried to put him out early, but it looked like he was just trying to survive after that. I think the game plan was poor for Anthony Smith in that fight, and he just showed there was a bit of a lack of conditioning. But then you think to yourself, he's doing the TV work as well now, Anthony Smith. How much is his head thinking, I've got my career now. I've got myself a little bit of work outside of it. I think Aleksandar is quicker. He's got quick hands. He comes out with a little sneak uppercut. And if you watch him when he does it, he throws a combination where he throws the right hand uppercut and then he shoots over with after the next time he throws the combination, instead of throwing the uppercut, he throws the overhand right. Because what he's doing there is he throws the same movement and then switches that overhand right. And that, as you're an opponent, you go to put your hand down to block the uppercut and the right hand hits over the top. Very nice move. The Jimmy Manuwa KO was filth. And I know Jimmy's chin wasn't what it was, but even if Jimmy, 5 years ago, that still would have put him to sleep, because that chin, anyone's shin hits you like that on the chin, you're going to sleep. And even now when you watch it, you're just like, oh, because just watch Jimmy just stiff like a board as he goes down. You're like, oh. Man, Rakitic got good power. He's got surprisingly good conditioning. That Uzdemir fight was a great little tester for him. Anthony Smith here, I think that he's got to be smart about the way he fights. He cannot get boxed up, because he'll go back up to the cage, he'll absorb punches, and he'll get finished. I can actually see Rakitic getting a win here. I really do. I think you can actually put a hurt on Anthony Smith. You take a lot out of the Glover fight and just use your boxing on him. I think Rakic will obviously try to throw the leg kicks and stuff. But if you can back up Anthony Smith to the cage, Anthony kind of takes it. He's happy to take the punches a little bit too much for my liking. He kind of likes to absorb the punches to maybe try and lull you in to then come at you a bit. But I kind of feel like Rakic here can land like that right hand overhand or the uppercut, etc. And it could actually hurt Anthony Smith. I'd like to see Rakic go for the body a little bit more in some of his strikes. He does a great body kick with his left foot. He finds that really well, that like kind of liver shot. He does get that birth perfectly. And if I'm looking at Anthony Smith, that's something I do. Go for the body a little bit to open up stairs and then get a stoppage there. But if Anthony Smith gets the fight to the ground and gets on top, as we saw against Gus, you look good there. You look good. So I'm going to go with Rakic, though. I think he could possibly stop Anthony Smith maybe in the second, third round. But I just think speed's going to be his advantage in this fight.
Yeah, it's like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing Rakic actually, because I think you hit it perfect. That was something I was going to bring up. Like, this division has been like completely turned with John Jones just giving up the belt. So now you've got everybody that can have a claim to that belt. You've got the two guys up top, rightfully so, and Reyes and Blachowicz are going to fight for the belt. But when you look underneath that, you've got a host of guys that you just know they think they can beat Rakic. And I agree. I think some of them can. I think Rakic can beat like a Reyes. I think Prochaska can maybe come in and do something. I think Ozdemir's always going to be around about there, even though he's coming off a big loss.
Rumble Johnson return.
Yeah, so there's a whole host of guys that'll immediately think that they can jump into that spot in that division, and it wouldn't surprise me if the belt starts flicking around a little bit and not being defended all that many times, because now with John Jones out of there, in my opinion, it's a very competitive division where I can see different guys. Thiago Santos, I mean, I'm not even mentioning him. Glover, you've got to put in there. So,
when GSP stepped down, mate.
Yeah.
In the welterweight division, it switched over a couple of times before we got a clear kind of contender to take the belt.
It's true, very much true, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about. I mean, Rakic came off a very, very close split decision. I don't think, like I said, his stock went down. I actually thought he fought really well. I just think Volkan just did that a little bit more in the right spot to the fight and got the decision there. But there's still a lot to like from that guy. Very athletic, very powerful. You can see he's making improvements. He's getting that more experience in the UFC. And he's a hard guy to really game plan for, because you don't know really what he's going to do. Smith, we've seen what happened in his last fight. I actually thought he started the fight brilliantly. I thought he was piecing up Glover Teixeira. Especially in the first 7 minutes of that fight, was really landing, and then from there it was a complete blowout. I mean, Glover was hitting 10-8 rounds with ease in the third and the fourth when he finished there, and again in the fifth, and it was just, there was a whole load of thing with should the corner have threw it in, but obviously there's a thing between the coaches and him where he doesn't allow that, which is fair enough. But he took an absolute shed load of punishment in that fight. Like, that's when I literally looked at that, I'm thinking, dude, you need to take a good year off, because that's in my opinion what you call a life-changing beating, and that's literally just over 3 months ago. There's no way you're getting your faculties back right in that. I think there was teeth knocked out as well. There's no way you're getting your faculties right in that short a time. But to be fair, this fight's over 3 rounds, so it's not as telling on your body doing the 5 rounds or even preparing for the 5 rounds. I'll be interested to see if he's been going back and forward between Colorado, because I think that has an effect, because he says he loves to be at home and he hates being away, so that must be a hard thing to kind of deal with. To me, I actually think it's a really good fight for Aleksandar Rakic. I think he has the potential to maybe make this quite convincing on his side. But I'm not taking anything away from Anthony Smith, because the guy's got nearly 50 fights, 35 wins, so he's got a hell of a lot of experience, far more than what Rakic has. Fought the top guys, your Gustafsons, Teixeiras, Jones, Volkan, Hua, you name it. He's fought guys like that, and some of those guys, again, were at the tail end of the career. Gustafsson, Hua, Rashad Evans and whatnot, but he's still in there and dealt with them accordingly. So for me, I think Rakic has got an opportunity to finish. I think he's got a lot of big weapons that can hurt Smith if he can find the right shot. But I mean, tough. Smith is very tough and he's hard to get out of there. You've seen that in that last fight. Glover had his back, he had him pounding away, and he never really gave up, even though that could have been stopped by the ref at numerous points of that fight. But he still kept going, and he managed to make to the 5th round, even though rounds 3 and 4 were complete blowouts. So I've got Rakic. I think I'm going to take him via decision. But like I say, just be careful here. Pick your shots right, because Smith can be awkward, and he's got a lot of experience. So, but I've got Rakic for the win there.
Yeah, Smith landed 86 strikes in that fight, and Glover Teixeira landed 138. 61% accuracy for Teixeira. Oof.
But once that one big shot landed, it was really all over. You could see
yeah.
It just wasn't really. Smith wasn't in the fight anymore, and he
never recovered.
No, the shots that were hitting him after just were really, really taking their toll on him. So, yeah, it's I mean, betting wise, the money side, you're on Smith there, but yeah, I think Rakic can. I think he could make this look particularly easy here. So, I'm going to go. I think we're both going for Rakic in that one there. So that's our predictions done for this fight card. I'm actually really looking forward to this one. Some of the fights that I'm really invested in. Looking forward to seeing this weekend. Going to the betting side of things, I've got no bets as yet. I've actually got 2 bets though. I might as well give them out for KSW 54 this upcoming weekend in Poland. Obviously, coming from the land of the KSW people, but I'm actually going to look forward to watching this one before the UFC fight. So I've got 2 bets. I've got a parlay of a guy that, if you don't know, then you probably should, because there could be a very good chance this guy could make his way to the UFC maybe this year, if not early next year. A guy that's not lost. He's 16-0, trains in Poland, but goes to American top team. He's beaten some named guys like a Norman Park. And there is other fighters on there. Mansour Barnoui is another guy he's faced. He faces an undefeated guy in Shamil Musaev, who's 13-0. The last few fights, if you've seen him, very, very dangerous fighter. So both guys undefeated, but Gamrot to me is the clear A side in that fight. And I parlayed him with Mikhail Andreyshuk, See face off against Mikhail Kita. The guys fought a couple of years ago, and Mikhail and Andreyshuk, it's quite hard to say, got him out of the inside a minute with a I think it was an anaconda choker. If I remember off the top of my head. So I've got them in a parlay at plus 113. And then I've got a guy, I don't know whether I'm going to give his surname a shot, but I'm going to give it a shot, actually. Let's go for it. Kasper Kozorezebski. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So I bet him at minus 110. So pretty much a pick 'em fight. I think the more money's coming in him since then. But just a couple of spots that I noticed when I was looking into it, and I like those spots. But talking about the UFC, which we're getting into here, well, if we're going underdog sides, I'm on Robbie Lawler, so I might bet that. I still need to see where I'm going to go. Alex Caceres, I think I might actually bet a game. I think anything over plus 200. I think anything over really plus 175. There's kind of value in his side, in my opinion. Even though if he doesn't fight smart, he could maybe fight a stand fight, just fighting the far better guy in the feet. But I think he can hopefully come into this fight and make rounds closer and take rounds through that. So I don't mind that so much. Impa is minus 130. I think that's a good line against Maki Pitolo. I really do like that line. Then I'm looking at parlay pieces. You've got a whole host there depending on who you want to parlay number wise. You've got Ankalaev minus 320. You've got actually Ricardo Lamas minus 265. I don't think that's bad. Sean Brady's minus 365 here in the UK. It's a bit high. I like him more inside the distance than I do as a parlay piece. And then some big numbers there. You've got Mallory Martin minus 325. I'm not sure I like that. Grasso minus 310. So there's some big numbers floating about in this card here. But I think if you can pick your spots right, I think Impa's probably going to be a bet for me. I'm not sure. I'm going to watch where this line goes and see if it comes down. If it comes down a little bit, I would love it to come down a little bit. I'd probably throw money on that. Rakic, I wouldn't mind some money coming down on him, and you can maybe parlay him up with maybe a Brady or something like that. Anything you can get close to plus money on, I think would be a good bet. But yeah, it's a really good card. Actually, I do like this card, and I will be staying up the whole entire night to watch this for the simple reason I go on holiday from Saturday afternoon, and I don't have to go up early on Sunday, so I'll end up watching this one. And I am invested If it was last week's one, yeah, it's not going to happen. So
Mhm.
there's definitely some spots there. So keep an eye out. My Bet MMA tips. If you pop that into Google, you'll see. If you search my name, you'll see who I'm on by the end of the week there. But yeah, I think if you can pick the spots right, you can. There's definitely some money to be made in this card here. But yeah, nothing down in the UFC. Only a couple of KSW bets in the meantime. So yeah, that's us for this week. We're back next week. We've got the heavyweights in the main event. We've got Alistair, Overeem against Augusto Sakai. Is it the passing of the torch to the new guy kind of coming through? If Sakai wins that one, he maybe puts himself kind of in line behind a couple of guys at the top of that division, maybe behind Blades and behind Ngannou. So interesting fight for him, and we're still going to see if Reem's still kind of relevant in the UFC heavyweight division in 2020. So until next week, guys, please hit that subscribe button, hit the comments button below, and get something in there. Your favorite pick, your favorite DraftKings pick, whatever it is you may be, and just hit the thumbs up and get that subscribe button, and just help us kind of grow the channel. Until next week, guys, from myself and John, all the very, very best, and enjoy the fights when they come around this upcoming weekend. Peace.